Oh yes, my heart goes out to all of those in Japan who are suffering. It's just a terrible disaster, and I tweet about it all the time. You can tweet me, and you can read what I say about them at LatoyaJackson.com, at Latoya Jackson. So, just please, I want anybody and everybody to do anything that they can possibly do. Every little bit helps. So please, let's all get together and help those who are suffering in Japan.
I have not heard anything about celebrities doing a telethon for Japan. Have you heard anything? I'm really surprised we haven't heard anything at this point.
No, but you know what I've heard? I've heard, Chris, that there are people that are donating individually, so which is really good. But as far as a group getting together like we've done with the others, I'm sure that's about to happen. It just hasn't happened yet, I'm sure, because they do need relief, and they do need help, and they do need care.
And our message goes out to the people of Japan, obviously, to help any way you can. Of course, Michael would want that.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding? I don't know if people know, but he is the biggest donator that there has been ever in history. He's been in the Guinness Book of Records for donating over $400 million of his personal money to different charities and to people who need help. So, yes, he would definitely want those to help the people in Japan, because the Japanese are very, very, very devoted fans of the Jacksons. And I just appreciate that very much. So we're doing everything we can to help them out as well.
I think when we saw you on the CBS show Armed and Famous years ago, you were trying to find a new challenge and step out of your comfort zone. Is that the reason you're also doing Celebrity Apprentice?
Well, yes, I was finding a new challenge and trying to step out of my comfort zone. You're absolutely right. But Celebrity Apprentice was a bit different for me. I had been asked to do it, and they asked me again, and I, gave it some thought. I wasn't too on board in the beginning, and I weighed it out, and I said, you know what, this is a great opportunity to bring awareness to the charity that you want to step forward. And so AIDS Project Los Angeles was the charity that I had been working with since my brother's passed, because that was one of his charities. And I said, we can bring so much more awareness to it by doing this show, and I could donate much more as well. So that's basically the main reason that kind of drove me into going to do the Celebrity Apprentice, because of that reason. And I think it's great that Mr. Trump Donald has allowed different celebrities to come on and give to their charities. That's just wonderful, I think.
So tell us about the charity you're representing that is close to your brother's heart.
The charity that I'm representing is AIDS Project Los Angeles. And basically, AIDS Project Los Angeles is in my backyard, basically, because I'm in LA. I've tried to take over his charities that he had been working for, and this one was the closest, and I said, why not? And I've been doing things for them ever since he's passed, which it makes you feel so wonderful inside. But what we're doing is we're looking for a cure for AIDS, because there are people with HIV and people with AIDS, and, we need a panacea for it. And basically, we're doing testing and things of that nature to come up with the solution to help free these people. What I do is I go out and I pass out groceries to the people, and I make sure that they have their dental care that's in place. And it's just wonderful to see the smile on their face when they know that you're helping them.
That is truly wonderful. I've seen you over the years in the Dancing with the Stars audience. Any chance you would ever do that, or are you just a fan and a viewer?
I like that show very much. I was a commentator on that show for Access Hollywood for one of the seasons, and that's why I had to be there to interview the different contestants that were performing. However, yes, I love that show. It's one of my favorites. My mother and I always watch it together. And I've been asked to do it over and over, but it's just something about that show. It's just, I'm so in love with it that I don't know. I'd be overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think so too. It's definitely something that you definitely have to think about before doing it. But there have been a lot of prominent people that have done it over the years, and I've been covering that show since year one. So maybe we'll see you there in the future. So talking about other things, is there going to be any new music from you in the future? And besides that, what kind of career do you want to have going forward?
Chris, I am putting out one more single, an album, as a matter of fact, called Starting Over. And once I do that, I'm done with music. And the reason I'm putting it out is because I've been putting it out for the past 10 years and haven't done it yet, and the fans keep begging me to do it. So I said, this is it, and I'm done with everything as far as music is concerned, and go and do what I love best, which is doing my business. I'm an entrepreneur, and I love business, and that's what I've always done. I went to school for that, and my father took me out and said, you're going to be a singer like everybody else. So my heart is going towards that, and that's where it has been, and I have so many different companies that I work with, and that we all work together and we pull out the best of everybody.
Is this the period in your life of self-discovery for you where, maybe you're living alone and you're just trying to figure out who you are given everything you went through earlier in your life?
I think that every day we are taught lessons, and sometimes we don't realize it or see it. I think life is a learning lesson within itself, and I think you should take the best out of everything that you see and that you encounter and make the best of it. So, yes, it is a learning lesson. It is a stepping stone, and you do learn from what you've done in the past, and you try to improve and enhance your life, and that's basically what I'm doing.
I was told by someone, I'm not sure if this is true, that you possibly want to adopt kids. Might that be something coming up in the future?
I've always wanted to adopt kids. Ever since I was 16 years old, I always said, I'm going to adopt. There's too many kids in the world that need love and attention, and I can give it to them. And it's so funny, the path that you take in life that takes you into a different direction. And yes, it's still on my mind, and I haven't given that up, and I've given it such strong thoughts lately.
And given that fact, obviously everything you went through early in your life, what is the message to women about domestic violence?
Oh, that's such a very, very touchy subject, domestic violence. And I think women don't realize it's something that's very prevalent, and it goes on a daily basis. As you and I are speaking about this, there are thousands and thousands of women that are being abused at this very single moment. I think women need to have a lobby. I feel that women need to speak out. The first time a man hits you is one too many times, and you need to do something about it. And that something about it is walking out that door and seeking for help and never looking back. I know that it's very difficult to do because I have been very much into that situation where you feel you can't just leave, you can't go because you're subjected to this, and they take your self-esteem away and everything away from you. But I'm urging all women, I ask them, the first time they hit you, please walk away. There is help out there. There are a lot of places that you can go and get help. But the first step to your freedom and to your life is to walk away.
We had Michael Jackson's choreographer Travis Payne through back in February for the This Is It tour, and he told us there were a lot of people that were close to Michael that were going to perform and appear with him on the This Is It tour. Did Michael invite you to perform with him on the This Is It tour or to appear?
No, not at all. But to go to the show, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then there was a period in time when you and Michael lived together in New York. What can you tell me about that period when you guys lived in New York?
It was a lovely time. It was a great time. We were always close to each other. We were always best friends. And when we lived together, it just made the bond so much closer. He was working doing the Wiz at that particular time. And we just had each other, the two of us, our first time being away from home from the rest of our family. And we lived our life the best that we could and shared so many wonderful moments. We slept in the same bed. We did so many wonderful things. And it was a great, great bonding time.
The most requested question that people had, I did actually let the Jackson fans contribute a few to this interview, was, what was the most fond memory that you have of Michael while growing up?
Oh, geez, there are so many memories. Oh, where do I start? There's so many that you could just pick any. Well, let's just say, whenever, you know what I liked about him? Whenever I would get sick, he would always go out and he would buy me stacks of fashion magazines for me to read because I would get sick every single monthly. And he felt so bad because I was in such excruciating pain. And he would get tapes of the Three Stooges and he would put them in my VCR because that's what we had back then. And he would put the tapes of the Three Stooges in to make me laugh and forget about the pain. And then he would go out. He knew that my favorite artist at that time was Frank Sinatra. I just loved his music. And he would go and try to find some kind of memorabilia at Frank Sinatra and get Frank to sign it for me to make me feel better.
Yeah, interesting enough. And then moving on from that, you co-wrote and sang a song with Michael titled Nighttime Lover. Fans wanted to know, did Michael ever originally have any intentions to use the song as one of his own tracks, or was it always meant for you, and did he record his own solo track to match yours?
We did that song, I recall that so well, in his bedroom on the floor. He was sitting on the floor and I was sitting on the bed, and we just started writing Nighttime Lover. And he felt that this is a great song for me. We started writing for me, actually. And Michael produced it on me. And he, at one point, told me, I think I want to put that out again. This is much later on. He says, I think I want to put that song out again, and I sing on it. And he sang it, actually. But he never did it. He never did, but that was just wonderful to know that.
Were there any other songs you guys worked on?
Basically that, I've done little things on his songs, like singing background for PYT and the Scream on Heartbreak Hotel and things of that nature, but that's basically it.
Okay, well, moving along with that, people wanted to know what your fondest memories were of Neverland Ranch, and did Michael ever spend the night at your house?
No, he never did spend a night at my house, but when we were living together, meaning at
New York,
family, before we parted our separate ways, he would always camp out in my room. He would call it camping out. So we would camp out in each other's room, and he would always come to my room and camp out. But Neverland was wonderful. It was what he wanted it to be. It was serenity. It was peace. It was his own world, and you were a part of that world once you entered the gate, hearing the music play and seeing all the animals grace the lawn. And it was just wonderful. You felt like you were in paradise, the peace of paradise, the peace of serenity.
Do you ever have dreams about Michael?
Oh, of course. Are you kidding? Absolutely. Absolutely. I like to think that he's still with us, and he will always be with us.
You said to Barbara Walters in 2009 that you did not take hard drives that allegedly contained over 100 songs of your brothers. Do you have any information today about the whereabouts of those alleged missing hard drives?
No, and I did not take those. And it's so sad because it's one of those situations where people just pin the blame on anybody, and they don't know what happened, and they just put it on you. And it was basically Frank DeLeo who said that, which was awful. Think about it, it's my brother, but I did not actually, at that time, I didn't even know what a hard drive was.
New reports came out about the missing surveillance tapes from the last hours of Michael's life. The LAPD said they were erased because they didn't know there would be a homicide investigation. Do you have any thoughts or anything you want to share about that?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. First of all, as I've always said, my brother was murdered. That's number one. Number two, you never, ever erased anything. I don't care if it was the first 4 minutes or what. You don't erase it. That's a cover-up and that's a hide because they know that people were in that house prior to anybody getting there, and they were already in that house, and they didn't want us to see who was leaving. When I got on the scene, I asked the police officers, I said, where are the surveillance tapes? I want you to pull them. They said, well, I said, I want to see everything on it. I want to see it, and I asked them over and over, and I haven't seen it to this day, and I just learned just the other day that they erased it.
Yeah.
So they say.
Yeah, so the reports say. What did you make of Michael's autopsy reports?
Well, I wanted a second one, and we got a second one, and honestly, nothing in this country is always properly straight. There are so many loopholes and so many things that were done in a different way that I am not happy with what's happening and what's going on whatsoever. At the autopsy, I want to be there. I want to make sure that nothing was done improperly. And at the last minute, no, you can't come. It's like, why can't I? I want to make sure. I don't want people cheating him out of his life the way they did, because I'm very troubled by all of this.
I can totally understand that, and fans definitely want to hear this from you. Is it true 6 weeks after Michael passed away that you did accompany coroner officials to Forest Lawn Memorial Park so they could get hair samples for toxicology testing, and if reasons and results of that? Yes,
I did. I was the informant on his body, so I was constantly going down there, and I didn't like the fact that they had to go back and get hair samples which they had gotten, and then they wanted palm prints of his palm, and that troubled me greatly because they had tested his body over and over and over again. Why that? That's one of the things you don't forget. Why that? So I said, for them to clutch his fist that way, they're going to say that he grabbed something or grabbed whatever it was and did whatever they were going to say he did to himself, and that's what I've always said. They were going to say he's injected himself, and I promise you that's what's going to come out, because there was no reason for that.
Since the summer of 2009, shortly after your brother's death, when you gave a few interviews, have you found any new information, whether it be people could have contributed to your brother's death or any other new evidence or conclusions?
I found tons of new information, and that's what I do. I found tons of it, and I'm very disturbed by everything that happened and everything that took place, and it needs to be heard and told.
And when are we going to hear about this? Have you shared it with authorities?
You will hear about it very soon.
Okay, then people are wondering, as well, besides that, okay, considering the information you say you do have and evidence, okay, did you hire a private investigator? Have you talked to authorities? Everyone, would like to know that specifically.
No, simply because the Los Angeles Police Department, they have the detectives on it. They're taking care of it, and they don't wish for anyone to intervene, although I'm not pleased with the job that's being done. There is a cover-up, a big cover-up.
So then do you still believe the trial of Conrad Murray is a sideshow, and if you do, what should his punishment be?
Well, I do believe it's a sideshow, and I will say this too. I truly believe that Dr. Conrad Murray was simply the fall guy and nothing more. That's all he is. And I just think that he was the guy that they put up front to make it look as if something happened. I see the way that it's going, and they're going to say that it was pure negligence, and I can't believe that.
When we spoke back in March, you seemed to be in great spirits from our last talk and everywhere I've seen you in recent years. But after reading the book, do you still struggle with anything? Are you in therapy or doing anything to still heal yourself from everything?
That's a great question, Chris. First of all, thank you for having me on your show again. It's good to speak with you. But no, the book was written starting over. I'm happy that you read it. As you know, it's encouraging women and anybody who feel that they need to do something better with their life and start over with it, if they're enduring any kind of abuse whatsoever, that it's important that you get out of that relationship and really make a better life for yourself and start over and go get help.
You're telling me that you're in the best spot that you possibly could be. There's nothing left to repair?
Well, I'm in a very good space right now, but yes, there is something to repair, of course, meaning I want justice and find out what really and truly happened to my brother in that sense. But starting over was not about that. He just happened to be a part of my life. So the last couple of chapters are about what happened to my brother and him and what he told me would take place. But no, as you know, I'm very happy with my life. I was able to start over, and I'm very happy that I was able to do this by really just putting out everything that happened in my life and letting people know that you cannot allow other people to control you, to manipulate you, to beat you, to lock you in closets and all these things that happened to me, to take away your self-esteem, your self-worth, and control you. This is not the way life is meant to be. Please get out of those relationships and do start over and start anew, and that's what it's all about.
You bring up a perspective of Michael that I feel hasn't totally been generally thought about. You show a side of Michael that feels vulnerable and scared regardless of all the money, success, and life he had. You describe it in a way I believe that he didn't see himself as a powerful person with everything at his fingertips, even though he did have those things, and probably many people thought that. He didn't seem very assertive. Tell me about that. Do you think this is something people just don't really know or understand?
No, what I'm saying is that when I say this is because his life was like my life. In other words, this guy came into my life. My parents asked him to go to Japan for them because they could make it, and that's when he took my passport away from me and said, "You're never going back again." He controlled me. These people come into Michael's life because of his kind, meek personality, and they started controlling him. And the world sees him as this powerful person, which of course he is with all the money, but yet these people are the ones that manipulated and controlled him and did what they wanted to do, and at the end he was living in fear. Now do you understand what basically I'm speaking of?
Go ahead.
They surround themselves in your life, and then they isolate you from your family members, your loved one, and they begin to control you.
Well, as you know, and as you mentioned earlier in this interview, and as we talked about back in March, you're still on a continued search to find out who caused the death of Michael. I wonder how the search is going, and has there been any new evidence since we spoke in March that you've come across?
It's very, very well. There have been things that have come out, of course. I think they postponed the trial, of course, once again. However, I think it's very, very important, and now they're involuntary manslaughter is what I always thought they would probably say, and now Dr. Murray is saying that Michael injected himself, and I am here to tell you that I have spoken to many doctors prior to this and asked them, and they said, it's totally impossible, you can't do this. When Michael first passed, the coroner came and said that, geez, all the drugs that were in Michael's body were the drugs that were administered to him that night, and there was enough propofol in Michael to have killed an elephant, and he said whoever did this intentionally, and they murdered him, they wanted him dead. And those are the words, and that's what happened to my brother. You cannot do this. They're trying to say he did it himself. That is totally untrue. Michael was very clean. He was very happy as far as with his health was concerned, meaning that his life, he was happy that he was able to do the things that he wanted to as far as sleeping is concerned and things of that nature. And he had gone to rehab with that. But as far as him being physically healthy at that particular time, no, he was sick. He really was sick. He was freezing all the time, and he was unhealthy. He weighed 112 pounds, yet they reported 136, I believe it was, or 35 pounds. But no, he had issues back then, just before he passed, with those things and struggling and not being able to complete a complete song, but yet they made it look as if he was very happy and energetic with the songs. He will give his all, but at rehearsals he never does, and he would have done a much better job than what you guys thought.
3 things I want to touch base with you. There's a lot of mentions and stories about Elizabeth Taylor and Marlon Brando and starting over. In recent months, there was a report that after 9/11, Brando, Taylor, and your brother Michael got in a car and drove across the country on a road trip together, ending up in Ohio. Do you know anything about whether this story is true or not?
Well, Michael got a camper for Elizabeth to get back home from 9/11, and she was in a camper going back home. And of course, at that time, everybody was looking out for everyone's safety at that particular time. But I never asked him if he was in that camper with her or not. I never did ask that. But I think I was towed at some point and then got out. I'm not so sure. But no, Marlon Brando has always been a friend of the family, and so has Elizabeth. They would always come over and watch movies with us all the time, and they have dinner. Elizabeth Taylor would come over and have dinner. This is when we all lived together at Havenhurst. And yes, they've been friends for years.
I think that Michael's fans truly want to believe that anyone who might uncover answers on your continued search, but what do you say to Michael's fans about what they can do at this point in time?
I'm asking and urging anybody that knows anything about anything, please help and speak out, and please tell what you know. If it's a paralegal who are working with these people, if it's a secretary, please, by all means, do tell. Because I do believe, because I know the truth. I know this is what they did. It was a conspiracy. But I do believe that there are people out there that the best is going to get to them, and they're going to say, you know what, I can't take this anymore. I'm just going to have to go out and tell what they really did to him. And that's this. Toya is right. She is telling the truth. This is what's happening. Michael did know this is going to happen to him.
Toya,
so fans,
go
don't know anything, please, by all means, do speak out.
Starting Over is the name of the book. Thank you so much for joining me today, Toya. In closing, is it really hard, though, that there are a set of Michael Jackson fans that feel like you're an opportunist in some way? Is that hard?
Well, I'm not an opportunist. You have to remember something. He's my brother. And guess what? I want justice for my brother. And the book is not about Michael. 85% of that book is about me starting over and women encouraging them. The only other percentage is he's a part of my life of what happened to him to get justice. Opportunist is absolutely not. I think people who don't know me, that's probably the impression that they want to get. But if you took time out to know who I am not an opportunist. The opportunists are the people that are controlling his estate. The opportunists are the people who controlled Michael, who are now people that Michael wanted out of his life that are in his life. Those are the people. Money trail people, follow the money trail, and you will know what happened to my brother. Who stood to gain the most.
Toya, thanks so much again, and I know that was a hard question to answer, but there's a lot of people who wanted me to ask you that one. Thanks so much, and maybe we'll talk again for a third time one day.
Okay, I hope so. Thank you.